Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Good to see everyone. Welcome back to another stream. Sound is good. Nice, thanks, Matt. We're back in action. SOC 100-5. Good to see everyone again. How's everyone doing? It's been like, what, a week? You had a week off or so? How's everyone actually doing? Easy, good morning. Got 22 in chat over here. Have a nice Jacopo. Matt, yeah, I said Matt already. Wild Peace, Patricia, Alan, Tom, Karina. It says 22, but all the names aren't actually populating yet, so there's a bit of a discrepancy between Twitch, what it's saying users versus what I see in the back and over here. But I see Sterling as well too. Tony, Scarlett, Demorier, welcome back as well too. 007, DevOps. Havana, yeah, doing good as well. Just came out of bed. Yeah, this is it. Just wake up and go. Easy. Had a rough couple of weeks, but feeling good now. Nice. Yeah, okay, cool. Feeling good now. Was it the time in the SOC? Things are starting to level out a little bit. Demori's feeling better as well too. Yeah, good to see SIU in the Discord chat as well too. Sounds like things are coming together a little bit on your end. Looking forward to being back in work, regardless of the job. Yeah, totally. Waiting for the pay so you can pick up, yeah, SOC 100-3, 4, and 5. Cool. Yeah, nice. Scarlett, what's going on? Nix, welcome back. Demori not happy with having to take 30,000. Big pay cut there, but at least you're working, right? So at least you've got some money coming in, some cashish. Getting some things coming in. Stepping stone, right? Easy brain overload for sure. Yeah, when you first get started. Whole life changed logistically. Jeez. Hopefully nothing serious. Doug, what's going on? Good to have you back. Let me know if the sound is also okay, because I have a different, like, it sounds super quiet to me. I don't know, because I have a different headset on from before. Not serious, just different. Yeah, fair enough. Okay, good. It takes what, like, I think it takes, like, I remember there was some study that I read before that, so when you go, like, on vacation or something, right? I think it's recommended, I think it's like 10 or 12 days is the minimum before your brain really starts to recognize, like, different circumstances and actually disconnecting from your previous state. So, yeah, I think we've been about 2 weeks since the last stream, so it sounds like you're starting to adjust. So it's around that time frame. I think it sort of supports that theory. Sounds fine. Okay, cool. Good. What about the background music though? So not my mic, but the background music, because to me that sounds like super quiet. But Doug looking casual. Yeah, it's colder today. So, like, I don't know, we just had like a dip in temperature over here. CI, welcome back. It's very faint. Yeah, I thought so. Okay, 1 second. Okay, let me know if that sounds actually... Is that too loud now? Let me know if that's actually too loud. Then I can bring it back down, and then we'll start getting into things. I think that's too loud. It sounds too loud to me. Let's go like middle. There we go. Good, good, good. Nice. Cool. Well, who's excited to get started? We are officially in SOC 100-5 territory now. So things are coming along. Finally there. How many of you completed the virtual SOC? That's the real question. I think there's two that actually completed the full certification, but who's actually started the virtual SOC? I think that's the real question. Who's ready to get back into it? That's another question. Who's had their coffee? Who's actually ready to start? Maybe that's the other question I should be asking. Demore, you haven't finished part 2 yet, but it will be a few weeks before you're back into things properly again, but looking forward to it. Yeah, fair enough. Well, Karina, you've been studying for the SOC 100-1 exam, forgot how much materials networking? Yeah, that's why I said, like all of you, when we had that break, I was like, you better go back and do the work, you know, stop chasing shiny objects, go back and do the exam, get things done, complete it. That was important. It's not realistic for you to remember everything. Like you just can't. You can't do that. So you need to test at the time of when you're actually studying. Networking's big. Karina, you were disappointed you didn't remember things? I mean, you can't be that hard on yourself. Do you remember every conversation you had yesterday? Do you remember every word you said? Every sentence? Do you remember what everyone else said to you? Do you remember everything you heard on podcasts yesterday? Like, whatever you did yesterday, do you remember all of that? Like, do you remember 100% of it? It's not gonna happen. I mean, by the end of a day itself, you probably have already started to forget, like, the morning. Yeah, like, you know, like 5 minutes ago. So, like, you can't have that expectation. That's not realistic. And that's why it's so important to spend the time as you're learning things to conceptually understand them. If you conceptually understand them, that's good enough, because then you'll conceptually remember. And then you can go back and reference as needed and refine. Because you don't need to memorize and master everything in the SOC 100 series. Like, that's an impossible expectation. Easy. Networking is so important. A month in and networking, learning more about the cloud service is your priority. Yeah, and Active Directory. Yeah, exactly. That's kind of why we covered the Active Directory in the first portion, getting you introduced to group policies and different types of services that you'd see in that type of enterprise environment. It's all about data going over the wire, keeping it secure, data in transit. Demorier, networking is a lot like Lego. Yeah, it is. That's actually a pretty good way to think about it. So many bricks, you can't remember how to build all things, but knowing where things go and how they fit together helps. Yeah, that's exactly it. So that's just it. Cool. Well, I think we can get ourselves started over here. Let's see, we got 33 in the chat now. A bunch of people joining as we go along. So today is SOC 100-5. We are officially kicking off the beginning of this. So I should actually get that screen shared over. Let me make sure that everything's good. 1 second. Drea, good to have you here. I think this is your first stream that you're able to attend. Welcome. Good to have you with us. Okay, 1 second. I should have the screen set up somewhere. It is, yeah. Nice. Good. I thought so. I also changed my screen, so this whole time since October, I had the camera like directly in front of me, with like my head tilted and kind of like constantly looking, like straining my neck the entire time. So now I've actually got my screen in front of me, like fully, and then the camera's over here, so I can turn around and I can kind of look that way, and I can have another screen set up as well too. So I'm hoping this is actually a lot easier, and then I can actually make like talking head content as we go along as well. Kind of the best of both worlds. Every single stream, I'd always leave afterwards with just like a knife in the neck is kind of what it felt like over there. So I think this is gonna make it a little bit easier as well too on my end. So let's go. Let's make sure my screen is actually working on the next setup. Yeah, cool. All right, SOC 100-5, class 31. Believe it or not, we're actually over here. We made it. This is what? So October, November, December, January, February, March, going into 6 months. The 6-month mark of study, getting yourselves up and ready for cybersecurity work. Karina, ergonomics is very important. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Okay, so SOC 100-5. What this course actually is. So SOC 100-5 is a series of fundamental modules. So it is getting you acquainted and oriented with the advanced content. So up until now, you've learned everything you needed to learn to be competent and proficient with IT and cybersecurity analyst tier 1 work. So SOC 100-1 took you through becoming an IT help desk analyst. Probably somewhere between like a tier 1 to 2 analyst was like, that was the whole point. Now there was a flavor of cybersecurity elements throughout the course that was also emphasized and focused on things that you would then see from a cybersecurity perspective, and then kind of layering a foundation for you to learn the next part of the skill set, which was SOC 100-2, learning how to triage common threats, common perimeter security types of threats that you would see, with developing a triage skill set to put out the fires. That was effectively the goal of SOC 100-1 and then SOC 100-2. Now, SOC 100-3, as we went through, was just experience. That was just putting you through a virtual SOC of your own, giving you tickets to complete on your own, challenging you and testing you to see if you could actually do the work entirely on your own, and pushing you through some uncomfort, or discomfort, I should say. Now, SOC 100-1 and 2 was enough that you could then start working on your portfolio, as we covered in the -1 component, and getting you to work on challenges and projects of your own. Now, we know that not everyone is going to go ahead and do that at that time. So we're going to start off SOC 100-5 with the third career prep module. And Neil is still working on the career prep 2 module, like we mentioned inside of Discord, for SOC 100-2, to have you build out a fully fleshed out malware analysis home lab. So we originally had that plan for release before, and it was going to be simple enough but effective, but he's actually taking it up a level, so that's coming soon. And what we're going to do today is we're going to walk you through the world of open source to some degree. We're not going to cover everything extensively, but enough that you understand more about the concept of open source and the purpose of it, and some various components about getting yourself involved and then developing some experience in the space. And I'll kind of preface this for now and say that this is probably the easiest, lowest cost way of getting yourself the best and highest level of experience that you could get to your target position. A huge pain point in starting a career in IT is the job postings are always going to be asking for experience, and you can't blame them. Okay? You can't blame a business for wanting to hire people with a lot of experience, because your position when you start with them is to improve their bottom line. Now, typically people with experience can do that. Very seldom is a company going to just take a shot on you. That typically happens with networking or a very good first impression. The soft skills, which we've been talking about up until today. But truthfully, it's rare. And if you don't have the opportunity to network with people, if you're shy, if you haven't developed that ability to just go and put yourself out there and see what happens, because that's a skill in and of itself. That's overcoming fear, it's overcoming anxiety, it's overcoming discomfort, it's overcoming your own personal bias, it's overcoming habits, it's overcoming your personality. It's a very uncomfortable thing to go and start networking with others in a very genuine, honest way, and trying to find the sweet spot without being too like salesy, schmoozing, greasing the person, grifting, like all those things that we don't like. It's a very delicate balancing act, and it comes with time and practice and just getting comfortable with being completely vulnerable. Because that's truly what it is. What happens is when you reach out to someone and you want to network with them, there is a probability of being rejected. It's kind of like dating. You know, you had a crush that you wanted to go and approach, and maybe some of you did, maybe some of you didn't. And for those of you that didn't, you probably regretted not doing it. And a lot of things in the networking space is related to that level of fear, just kind of putting yourself out there, and you might just get rejected. So getting comfortable with a level of rejection, and not necessarily like a hard no or a hard pass, but rather, you know, the audience not reciprocating what you're trying to present. And what you're trying to present is you. Why are you a valuable proposition? Why should they invest their time into you? And if you don't have the experience, you're going to have to convince them. And the easiest way to convince them is to get experience and show it, not just talk about it. There was a time back in 2020, early 2020s, right? There was a massive hiring boom. Let me actually see if I can pull up. Let's put that on that screen. There is a report. Let me see if I can find it real quick. But Fred data, IT, Indeed hiring data. I think. Let's take a look. Aha, yeah. Okay, take a look at this. All right. So, this isn't to dishearten you. This is to give you the reality. Okay. So this is IT operations and help desk job postings in Indeed in the United States. And this is pretty much... this is a pretty common curve of just about any tech or tech adjacent type of field right now. Software engineering is I think actually even like it's probably a little bit worse than this last I checked. So what we're looking at over here are the general job postings available, and you can see this giant spike. Hiring was going crazy, and up until 2022, even going into 2023, there was a very, very high chance of getting a CompTIA certification, getting some level of study, and then someone hiring you. Those times have changed. If we take a look at the data over here, we can definitely see just how much the job market has changed. So back in 2020, before in February, I wonder if we can go back even further than that. Can we? No. So that's the furthest we can go back. Max? Okay, cool. So this curve at this point in time said, all right, we're going to hire you, and you don't really need to show a lot of experience for it. Then we saw a lot of things happen. We saw layoffs. We saw the market correct itself. We saw the investors pull out of a lot of companies. We saw a lot of... And typically, for those of you that aren't really familiar, when we're talking about business relations, startups and businesses will be funded. There's a board. You've all heard about the board, right? Now, typically, boards and investors and backers are looking for a return on their investment anywhere from like 4, 5, even up to 10 years. So it's a several year cycle that they are pumping you and they're expecting a return. And the business owners say, okay, well, like we're making $1 million right now. We are projecting that we are going to make 10 million. We're going to 10x. That's where you've heard that term, like we're a company is 10x. And if you are investing in us now, if you give us 500,000, well, your exit in several years that you can pull out your funds will be maybe 900,000 or $1 million. And these investors do this with many companies. Sometimes it's not even that much. Sometimes it's just like 100 or 200,000 or even less. It's not. Sometimes it's not a very large gain. But when you have like 100 investments, all with a percentage or an incremental gain or return on your investment, well, that's how they make money. And so what has happened here, you can see these cycles, and this happens all the time. If you actually look back through job postings and such, you're going to see cycles for this reason. There's an investment, there's a market demand, people invest, and then they hire, they deliver, they generate money, they send it back to the investors, and then the investors are done. And then they find the next bull market. They just keep on doing this. So that's what's actually happened in the back end. Now, it doesn't mean that there isn't a job available for you. Demore is saying, so a lot of companies also realized that they couldn't maintain the revenue they were getting or projected that they were... Exactly, yeah, so lots of jobs that were available had to go. You saw a lot of redundancies in tech companies I worked for do this, exactly. Yeah. That is all coming back to those projections. Like, oh yeah, all right, well, I'm making hand over fist. I am making a ton of money up this 2020 to 2022. So therefore, you know, people might have expected, all right, well, this curve is going to continue to go up. But it didn't. So if you're not making money, you need to get that bottom line in order, or else you don't have a business. Now, again, this isn't to say that there isn't a job for you. There is, and there will be more. We're going to be continuing to work for some time to come. That's not going to change. But the expectations have changed. And that's just a reality that I think every student needs to understand. And that's okay, Because if you really want this, if you want to get in the field and you like this industry and you have a passion for it and you're good at it, you don't necessarily have to have a passion. You can find passion after you're working. There's different schools of thought. It's not about loving something first and then doing it and continuing to love it. It could be the opposite. You could do it and then love it. And there's many other situations where that could change. So either way, if you want this for whatever your reasons are, there are openings for you. And the job market will change and it will adapt, and we will see what we've seen in every industry. You will see that as industries are created, there is a boom of entry-level work, and then entry-level work starts to seal up because tooling and processes get better. So you need less entry-level applicants in any field, in any industry over time. And this separates people. At this point, you're either going to work really hard and you're going to go the extra mile and you're going to show that you are a valuable asset to be invested in, and you're going to continue upskilling yourself and get to an intermediate and advanced bracket, and then you'll have work. But if you get to a point where maybe this wasn't really for you, maybe you were banking on an entry-level job and that was just enough, and you're hoping to figure it out later, and maybe you don't like this. Maybe it's too much. Maybe it doesn't work with your life. There's a lot of reasons. And then you're going to see some students will just deviate. They're going to go to another industry. And this is why, if you notice in a lot of like entry-level conversations around IT, people are dancing like crazy around different domains. One day they want to be a SOC analyst. One day they want to be a GRC analyst. One day they want to be an engineer. One day they want to work in IT. One day they want to work in data science. One day they want to work with AI. Because a lot of people are just looking for that foot in the door. And that's probably, arguably, not the greatest strategy at this point in time. That would have been better for you during the peak. The peak of it all, you could have just picked anything, gotten in the door, and then figured it out later. That is no longer the best strategy. It's a strategy, and it can work for you, and it will work for some, but it's not going to work for the majority. And that's also the truth and the hard truth to understand at this point in time. So what do? Well, you need to make a decision. How are you going to show that you are competitive in a competing market? How do you do that? You can take one of two routes. You can take the lowest or any available job as long as it's industry related, and then work your way up from there while upskilling, knowing that this curve is going to continue doing what it's doing for entry-level positions, and continuously try to get yourself ahead. So that's option one. Option two is to work at your current job or not work or get any job. So as long as you have some type of income coming in and you're able to survive, that's option two. While you're doing that, you develop the experience on your own as if you were working in the industry. That's it. And this is how it's always been. And I really want to get that point home. This is how it has always been before we saw this crazy growth cycle. If you wanted to get into IT and cybersecurity, you did one of those two options, and you were focused and you were targeted on what you wanted to do. So we've actually returned to that, and you can see that. Like, yes, there was a drop off when the pandemic really started to kick off and no one knew what the hell was going on. But look at this later. It's actually sort of stabilized. There's a bit of a dip going on right now. It's probably going to maybe dip and kind of go up and down with these little kind of smaller peaks and valleys on a chart. But from 2025 to 2023, it hasn't actually changed that much. This is actually more of reality. So Doug's saying, yeah, most of your experience has been focusing in a specialty, so you decided early what you like and what is necessary to get there into an advanced position. Absolutely. Absolutely. We're back in that area. More importantly than ever, your time is incredibly important to spend. So where this is going is to stop chasing shiny objects. Try and get yourself out of the mentality of just give me a shot, and start getting yourself into the mentality of I'm a valuable professional. I'm skilled. I'm well trained. I'm educated. Yes, I'm self-taught, or I'm volunteer, or I'm adjacent, but I'm confident and I'm capable. That's what you need to do. That's the strategy you need to get to. And the applicants and the students that can get there and do that and demonstrate that confidence and that capability and ability to do the job will get the job. And you don't even need to be the best at it. You just need to be confident in what you know and where you want to go. And that's more important, because we don't need generalists anymore. And that will go away further. Doug saying cybersecurity is definitely necessary with all the constant cyber threats. Yes. Cybersecurity. So we've talked before in -1, right? Like security is it's a property of something. Okay? It is a property of something. It doesn't exist on its own. IT exists on its own. There is a computer, you set it up, you deliver it, and you make sure that someone can use it. Now, security is the user is secure, the computer is secure, and the IT person is also secure. And the business is secure. You see, that's already like, that's 4 layers of additional security responsibilities to that situation. Security is not going anywhere. It's going to change. The expectation of what you do and how you do it will change and ebb and flow. But it is a property of something. And the more technology we introduce, the more cybersecurity related responsibilities we will have to deal with. Dre is saying, you've noticed that jobs posted asking for 100 certs that have no centralized focus and 5 years of experience but are listed as entry level. Is this a break between a hiring manager and HR? Not necessarily. You have to look at a job posting. Okay, so a job posting is effectively a wish list. That's it. That's all it is. I wouldn't say it's a break. I would just say it is a reality of the maturity of the organization. When they're asking for an entry-level position with that level of qualification, why would they be asking that, right? Why would a company want an entry-level person who is experienced like an advanced, intermediate, or expert level professional? So a couple things come to mind. Yeah. Good, Demoria. Yeah. So they don't have the time to train you. Their expectation is that maybe they're a small team, so they just need to hit the ground running, and you just need to be able to do it. Or they don't even have security, and they don't even know what they're asking for. They read a blog. They went to dark reading, and they read like a CISO article, or Computer Weekly Security, whatever. They read some type of blog that says, oh, like these are the trending certifications, or they went to the CompTIA website and said, okay, yeah. So this is the big one, like it's a DoD cert to go get like the certified ethical hacker or CompTIA Security Plus. So we want that. So you're going to see those things. And that's kind of all it really is. Doug saying, so you think what makes cybersecurity great and why you guys have future if you stick with cybersecurity, if you stick with level effect and cyberkata, is because it is so integrated into different facets of IT. Yeah. Yes, it is. Yeah, we're teaching exactly. So system administration, network admin, security admin basics, and even cloud security is coming up as well too. And so, to Doug's point, this is the point of SOC 100-5 is we've taught you the security analyst skill set. We've taught you the IT help desk analyst skill set. You don't need that anymore. Now you just need to get better at that, but you also need to get moving. So SOC 100-5 is an effort to be able to introduce you to, well, the first thing is going to get you to be working with getting some experience. I want every student taking this to be able to go and contribute to something open source and then put that on your resume. We're also going to learn detection engineering, defensive scripting, so which that's kind of like a threat hunting module, but more in a script, I should call that like defensive scripting and threat hunting together. So I don't know. We may even need to like adjust that, but that's what that module is going to be like. Like, how do you hunt for threats with a scripting level of effort? DevSecOps and cloud security, reverse engineering, threat hunting itself. That's going to be Doug's module. That's top notch. And then pen testing, application security, and Python programming. Any one of these modules is going to be where you want to focus your efforts to get to the intermediate and advanced tiers of IT and cybersecurity. That's why we're doing this. That's the whole point of SOC 100-5 is, okay, we've taught you how to put out the fire. Yes, it was hard. Yes, it takes several months. That's why cybersecurity is not entry level. It takes time. Get that done, learn it, get better with it. Fantastic, awesome, move on. And start your intermediate and advanced training so that you are competitive in the market. And like I said, yes, some of you will get jobs. Some of you have gotten jobs already within just SOC 100 training. It is that good. We're very confident on it. But that doesn't mean you should rest on your laurels. You need to get moving. And I'm not trying to create a false sense of urgency or pressure. I'm just telling you like it is. Had this been back in 2020 to 2022 and even going to 2023, I would have just advised, okay, well, just target your SOC analyst position, stay focused on that, and go and get like a year or two of experience and do that. And then start coming back to it. And like while you're doing that, start thinking about what you want to do. This is what I told students for years. Start thinking about what you want to do. You have time. You have time to be able to go and explore. Now you're at a position of, okay, well, depending on your life circumstances, some of you might have time. Some of you might actually be able to, I don't know, go and study for a year or two. Maybe you don't need to leave your job right away. Maybe you're not a career changer. Maybe you are leaving the military sometime soon. Maybe you're going to leave the military in like 2 to 3 years. That's a reality for a lot of people too. So you have time as well too to figure things out. But regardless of where you go, you do need to be able to be focusing on an intermediate or advanced specialty. So a SOC tier 1 analyst level of competency is the bare minimum. That's your minimum expectation at this point in time that you need to set yourself as a goal and hold yourself accountable to. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Drea, yeah, good. Cool. Yeah, Easy says there is definitely a lack of on-the-job training. There is. Yes, there is. A lot of it is trial by fire. Krita, you appreciate the career talks? Yeah. I hope it's not too raw. It's just the honest... It's just an honest take on what's actually happening. Now, personally, I get motivated when I know that there's like a competition like this. Okay, cool. That's good. You know why that's good? It's good when there's competition because it makes you focus. When there's no competition, you get lazy. You put it off for a day. You put it off for a week. You put it off for a month, a year. And there's nothing wrong with taking a little bit of time and enjoying life as well too. But we're talking about a career change or a career goal. And sometimes it's good to just put the pedal to the metal. And competition helps that. It helps stoke a fire in you. It says, okay, I need to be focused. I can't just go and leisurely waste my time. Martinez, thanks for the follow. It means that I need to step it up. I need to step up my game. I'm not going to just go and chase every shiny object. I am going to become very good at this target area. So competition, I think, honestly, is good. I think it drives innovation. I think it promotes creativity. I think it brings out the best in yourself. And that's very healthy. When we don't have competition, like I said, I think it promotes a little bit of like a I don't know, this might be like a French expression, but like a laissez-faire kind of attitude, right? Where if you don't have a need, if you don't have like, I was going to say Top Gun reference right there. If you don't have the need for speed, but you know, if you don't have a need to do something, then it's just a human thing to take your time with it. And that's okay in a lot of things in life. But like I said, when it comes to a career goal and when you want to move yourself up ahead, when you want to establish yourself in some way, when you want to increase your level of wealth or generational wealth for your kids, when you want to increase the level of assets that you might hold, when you want to just save up and go on vacation, when you want to go and buy a new car, maybe a new TV or a new set of pots and pans, whatever it might be, these things tied to a level of financial requirement is going to, it's healthy to have a level of competition to drive you to get there faster and get yourself to be the better version of yourself along the way. And this is why goals are important. Competition drives goals. Demore is saying, some experience in your recent job searches have highlighted some things to me. So now I'm working again. Yeah. You're going to spend this year just working my skills and experience and have more behind me when I start looking for SOC roles again. Exactly. Yeah. And that's okay. And I know, Demore, like even for you, you know, you've gotten another job to kind of keep yourself afloat, which maybe isn't your ideal target job, but look at what you just said there. You've gained insight. You've gained clarity. And you're now much more focused. You're going to spend your time more wisely and more targeted, and you'll be more effective. Even if your circumstances aren't the greatest in life, you're now going to be driven to a point where you will probably succeed faster now, having some level of pressure and some competitive market edge pushing you in a direction. And I'm not speaking for everyone. This isn't like a one size fits all kind of thing. That's not how it works, right? But generally speaking, it is good. CI, you want a small recap? I don't know how I can small recap all of that. I guess I'll recap it in this way. Market's tough. It is a competitive market now. You don't have the time to, I guess I'm trying to think of like how to summarize all those points at one. Competitive market, you need to get yourself more to an intermediate advanced level. Stay focused. Don't chase shiny things. Pick a target, pick a goal, go at it. You can adjust it later. And a SOC Tier 1 analyst skill set is the minimum expectation for the market right now. Doug, if you want to network and need help, let you know. We will try to help you all and be a reference. Yeah, for sure. It's awesome, Doug. Yeah, market is tough, level up. There you go. Okay, that's a better summary. Thank you, Doug. Market is tough, level up. There you go. It is what it is. What's that other saying? Diamonds are made under pressure. So that is what you need to consider too. And diamonds look really nice. Demore, there's an OSINT event in your city next week, so planning on go. Yes, exactly. Good. Perfect. Physical networking. Get out there. Okay. So let's actually talk a little bit about the content of SOC 100-5. So the introduction module is effectively the same, right? Like you can submit your Discord form. We'll add some resume bullet points as we go. We're doing the live streams and everything will be added as a recorded video to the course right after, as these things get edited and uploaded. That's not right. 1 second. Let's go back to editor view and go to, that's not right. Something's not right there. Okay. Give me a second. I think I copied the, yeah, okay. You get to see this all live in real time, how I can update these things. All right, let's take a look now. Yeah, there you go. That's better. Okay. That's better. Doug's saying, yeah, also go to cybersecurity conferences is how Bearded Ruck has got his position. Yeah, exactly. Okay, do you know how I got my first hard technical position? I knew someone. I got to know them. Actually, I worked with them for a couple of years. And then I reached out to them. And I reached out to a lot of people that time. And I reached out to them. They were one of the people that I reached out to and just said, hey, look, like I've been doing this. I've been studying that. And I'm now ready to jump in more of a technical role. And they said, hey, actually, I know someone who has an MSP. Let me connect you with them and just see how the conversation goes. So I did. That's how I got my first technical job. This was back in 2018. This was after 3 years of self-study while also working in the hotel industry as like a senior risk management ops manager type of role that was heavily GRC and IT related that I've talked about before. So 2015 to 2018, I was in that position studying, and I was just upskilling myself, home labbing, taking courses, whatever I could do. And then when I felt ready, I just reached out. Now, I applied a lot at that time as well too, and I also got rejected quite a bit. Comes with it. But even back then, networking is going to be your most important thing. But most importantly, I had experience. And I think I've shared this story before. You know what got me that job? It wasn't even so much. Yes, they were impressed with like the 3 years I was working on the job, but a lot of it wasn't directly related to working at an MSP. The security was. But you know what actually got me the job? Was the fact that I, 1, had a home lab. 2, I configured my own small enterprise Windows network. 3, I was able to run it and tear it down and walk them through specifically why I did everything I did and configured it the way that I did and how it's relative and applicable to the real world. That got me the offer. Just that. Just being able to walk through my home lab. So, that is why I press so hard on this. You'll hear the same thing from Doug, from the other instructors, from anyone in the field. They will tell you, get your hands dirty. Courses are great. We're confident our course is going to teach you a lot, but you need to go and get your hands dirty too. And then when you're networking, you can talk about those things. So Matt, you're saying conferences and local events are great opportunities. Yeah, they are. And you know what? So like to Demore's thing as well, you have an OSINT event. If you went to an event and everyone came up to you and they were like, hey, I just got my CompTIA Security Plus. And then you asked all those people, okay, Have you ever actually triaged malware before? On a compromised Windows endpoint? And they're like, well, no, but I read a book about it. And I could tell you that maybe we need to run a vulnerability scan on it. And if the vulnerability scan says that there's a virus, then there is. That's where that cert is going to get you. That's effectively what a theoretical cert is going to. It's going to get you an understanding of the process and the high level understanding expectation, but not the ability. And that's the difference. Now, if you were at a conference and you were that 1 out of 10 people that were walking around and you could answer that question, and you talked about the Windows registry and where a persistence mechanism might run at startup and what happens at runtime and the process dependencies that are issued and connected at the time of execution and where an anomaly might occur during that, well, that's what you would have done in the SOC 100 course. Phantom Damien. So, Level Effect, do you happen to have a tutorial on Home Lab for cybersecurity? Our course is, so if you go back to our YouTube playlist, we actually walk through in SOC 100-1. If you can't afford the course will walk you through how to build your own Active Directory server and such. And then in SOC 100-2, we're actually going to have you build a home malware analysis lab. This is all recorded, so if you don't have the finances, you can go watch the recording of this. And you can build it that way. And then we have a home lab channel inside of our Discord that we're happy to help you out with. So hop inside of our Discord, Phantom. I can link you that up. I need to find the exact YouTube video, or maybe someone else in chat or one of the other students can help you find it. But we have the it is recorded, and then the courses themselves, they walk you through it. Cool. Okay. 10:54. So Career Prep 3 open source. Let's get into it. I'm actually gonna take a quick 2-minute break. right, so nice, Doug. Yeah, thanks for the link over there. Doug, you need permission to edit SOC 100-5? You should. I think you have access to a staging course. Take a look. Let me know. You should have access to like a staging course. And then we're going to add your content into the threat hunting module when it's all good to go. Okay, cool. So we've actually talked a lot. Yeah, we're back, CI. We've actually talked a lot about open source in the Linux module, I think back in SOC 100-2, right? Like the importance of open source. And really what this means is this, you know, like open source is software with source code that anyone can inspect, modify, and enhance. It doesn't mean that it's free. And that's another concept below, FOSS, as it's called, free and open source software. But open source means you can get a glimpse of how a professional tool is built, like actually coded. Like open source software means that we can inspect it fully, so you can see the code behind it. And that answers the question. When someone asks themselves, like, what does a SOC analyst do? Or what does a security engineer do? I'd like to see a proper example. Like, I'd actually like to see what they've done as if I'm with them in the field. And then, you know, you get courses like ours, you get YouTubers that kind of talk like a day in the life of. And, you know, depending on the quality, you can get pretty close. Like, even we've created the virtual SOC for you. That's pretty close. Regardless of however these courses will prepare you for these things, even ours, the highest quality possible. I don't mean like our course. I mean like in general, like the highest quality courses out there possible. Not just Level Effect, but it could be anyone. It's not a direct representation at this time. Now, like in the future, like an ideal scenario would be for us to create a fully functioning, working fake company. You know, like we would build a fake company. You would get it registered. You would build a virtual network. We'd give you like remote access. You'd log in. You'd have a role. You'd get attacked, and you have to respond to it. That's true to life, but very, very complex to build. It'll also cost a lot. Now, the alternative to this is something called open source. And you might not get direct SOC experience from that, but you can get a lot of other experience from this with other adjacent roles. So if you have a tier 2 or maybe like a tier 3 analyst or a security engineer that has built a tool to scan for certain vulnerabilities and they use it at their company, well, guess what? If it's an open source tool, you can go to that project, take a look at it, dissect it, tear it apart, understand how it was built, and then, you know what? You can even reach out to the maintainers, to the developer themselves, and ask them questions on it. And you know what? They're going to be really, really happy to explain these things to you. By doing that, you've already networked. You've introduced yourself to people. You've also gotten some clarity and insight under the hood of how a professional tool works. And then you can look at it and you can learn how to build something similar to it. And then guess what? At that point, you have now built a tool without any experience, like in the field, that someone who might have a couple years experience might have actually built and used. This tier 2 and up analyst might have a couple years experience on their belt and they have built this, and you can learn how to now build that from their project and then put that on your resume, something similar to it in complexity, and then demonstrate that you have the ability to build something that requires a couple years of experience. Now, that isn't too far-fetched, and it's not like a recruiter is going to look at you and be like, I know you kind of just looked at an open source project, you don't really have that experience. We know that. You know that, the recruiter knows it, the hiring manager knows it, but what they do know is that you have the ability to do it. And you have the ability to get there faster than someone who doesn't have that presentation on the resume. Demore is saying just don't make demands from open source developers. Yeah, that's actually a fair point. Yeah, that's a fair point. And I think everyone seems to be pretty good natured over here, but like when I'm saying reach out, go and you can ask them questions, like just let them know, like, hey, I'm interested in how you made this. I want to be able to make what you made. I have a question on this. Don't demand things from them. It's all free. It's all volunteer work, right? Doug saying, hint, hint, if you all want proof, go take and dissect Snort as an IPS and then go to any company that uses Cisco. Yep, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So go and target a company and learn what tools they use, and then go and find open source versions of it or ways to contribute to it. And if you went to a company and you can, like, let's say you're applying for a SOC analyst position, and maybe it's like a tier 2 and up where you're involved somewhere around the entire pipeline of configuring or shipping logs to the SIM, normalizing it, structuring it, tweaking, tuning, writing rules, all that stuff, somewhere in that realm, right? If you can demonstrate that you have the ability to tweak and tune a log shipper from an endpoint, or you have the ability to prepare a script that can optimize or normalize data before it hits the SIM, or if you have a script you can run to pick out different IOCs, like we've talked about Yara. If you built a Yara detection rule that you can then put on your portfolio, that you're actually able to write detection rules at a level with Yara right now, and then you applied to a job and said, hey, look, I haven't worked as a SOC analyst, but I know how to triage malware. I even know how to write some detection rules and how to work with the data being shipped to the SIM. And if you put that on your portfolio, well, you actually have more experience than some SOC analysts in the field. And you can do that with open source. That's the point of it. Now, some projects, and yeah, so like an example here is, right, like consider the Linux kernel. The Linux kernel is effectively that. Like, yes, very advanced, right? Very, very advanced. You're not at that level yet. Maybe not. But a project like the Linux kernel is an open source project where people can go and contribute to. And if you were trying to apply to like a Linux sysadmin type of position, and on your resume saying that you are a contributor or some type of helping position towards the Linux kernel, that's really impressive. And you don't need on-the-job experience for that. You just need study. You need a book, you need time, and you need some elbow grease at home, getting the experience, and then you can put that on your resume. Now, some projects are also free and open source. Some of them are completely free for you to take and modify and make it your own. So, like, you can't go to some projects because of certain licenses and just take it and then change like one variable and be like, yeah, that's mine. You can't do that. Not every license is like that. So some of the common licenses you might see out there, like a GPL license, if you modify it, you must also provide the source code under the license as well too. So like some licenses, and this one's called like a copyleft type of license, meaning that if you create something from it, you then have to share it under the same constraints of the original license, or you might need to reference it in some way. There's the MIT license. This one gives you a little bit more flexibility. Very, very minimal restrictions. But whenever you go to a GitHub project, or an open source project, I should say, because it's not always going to be on GitHub. But when you go to an open source project or a free or a FOSS one, you're going to have a license provided to you and what you can and cannot do with it. Follow the license, look it up, and stay within those constraints, and I think you'll be all right. What I'm really trying to hit home over here, okay, actually get to the next topic here in a moment, but let's say you went, like, so, okay, where are you going to find these projects, right? If I go to github.com, I don't know, let's go into, like, beginner friendly. Okay, so you can go to github.com and go and search for beginner friendly projects out there. You can change tags. You can go and look for a variety of projects for you to go and get started on. You can go to Reddit. You can look around there. You can go hop in various forums. Better yet, you're in the Level Effect Discord right now. Go ask around. Ask the Level Effect Discord if anyone has an open source project that they're working on, or maybe wants to start working on. You don't have to do it alone. You can reach out to other students and ask them what they're working on, go through the challenges in the SOC 100 course and work on them together and build a project together, and then put that on both of your portfolios. Many hands makes light work for a reason. So the point that I'm trying to get over here is that this is free experience. So the first step, learn the skill. Take a course, go through YouTube, take our courses, take these streams, learn the skill set. That's part one. So education is part one. Part two, get experience. And you can get it for free. You don't have to pay anything. After what you've invested in your time and your money up until this point to learn and self-study, now you can go and get free experience with that. So an important point is this right here, is that everyone wants experience, but not everyone wants to work for it. And I am telling you right now, I've been a hiring manager, and ask any hiring manager who has recruited before, whether it's technical or non-technical positions. It is very clear to us after we've been through some candidates who actually is putting in the work to be able to do the job, and who wants to. Who is coming to you and presenting the drive, the care, the consideration, and the thought, and I guess most importantly, the dedication that they want to do a good job, and that they will work hard for it, and they will be open to opportunities and open to feedback and open to critique, to be told how to improve. And you get this experience. Thanks, Drea. Thanks for the sub. Cool. Got a gifted sub to Wing Out. Very cool. It is very clear to us who have been in this position before when we've had to hire someone. And I can tell you right now from my position, I have not always hired the most technical person. And I'm pretty sure that if you ask, I think Doug's been in that position before too. If you ask any of the instructors or anyone who's been in a hiring manager position, technical and non-technical, you're not necessarily always hiring the person who fits the bill to a T. Because the interview itself is a bit of a snapshot in time, and the resume, every hiring manager knows this, it's polished, it's presented in such a way to convince and persuade you to make a decision and influence you to hire that person. We all know that. But then when the candidate gets inside the door and they can talk very well about something in particular that they've dedicated a lot of time on, and they have something to show about it, that is arguably more valuable than someone who has done a lot of things but never finished. Because on the job, you need to be able to finish the job. Not partly there, not the beginning, not mostly, the whole thing. Yep. You need someone who knows enough to do the job well. Not someone who knows it all but doesn't do the job. Or someone who knows a lot about a lot about, or rather I should say a little about a lot of things, and is very scattered. So you see, the candidate that typically will make through in that situation is the person who's following the 80-20 rule. The Pareto principle. If you haven't heard of this, this is just a well, it's a principle. Kind of like axioms that you've heard, like Occam's razor and stuff, right? Now, 80% of the consequences or the result comes from 20% of the effort. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at it. It's this ratio. And hiring managers can see through this very, very quickly. So Doug's saying, yeah, he looks for personality and traits and the drive to do projects outside of work, to do continue learning more than having... Yeah, exactly. I'm the same way. If you have a bunch of certs under your name, I'll be like, okay, you know, like that's interesting. They've been able to dedicate themselves to things. Like they have good study habits, maybe. Maybe they're a good test taker. Maybe they just are the ability, maybe they just have the ability to go and like commit to something. And as long as they have a guide, which is what studying for a certification is, like they give you a guide, they give you objectives. As long as they have a guide or a set of objectives, they can do something. So that's good. That's what I'm thinking in my head. And that's what hiring managers are thinking inside of their head too. It means that you're able to complete something with a roadmap. Good. Good. That's a good start. But what I want to see is, what have you been able to build on your own? Without a guide, without a roadmap, without someone telling you what to do and why you should do it and why it's important. What conclusions have you come to on your own? And really what that is experience. You don't even have to have insane critical thinking skills. You just need experience. Experience is the best teacher for a reason. Experience will teach you this. It'll teach you the Pareto principle. It'll teach you that you might have tried really hard for 6 months to get a result, and it gave you a significant amount of stress. It cost you a lot of time, and you got nothing from it. And experience will have taught you in that situation that perhaps had you just changed your perspective or changed your approach, you would have succeeded months before that. And that's what we're looking for. That's really it. And you can do that, again, by working with open source projects and projects of your own. So by the end of SOC 100-5, you're going to have learned a lot more about these fundamentals of the advanced content and modules. But the expectation is you'll need to go off script. I even have... Let me know what you think of this, okay? So the original idea for the SOC 100-5 certification was to give you like a long multiple choice exam on the various different modules. But personally, and let me know if you don't want this, but I would actually prefer to see that you just deliver a capstone. Choose any of the modules here, or anything from like SOC 100-1 and 2 content, and go and build something. And I'll have some requirements for you, and I'll you know, the certification will just be like a review, you know, like you'll submit it, and that's how you'll get the certification of the SOC 100-5 content, is you'll actually have to submit a capstone from some level of intermediate advanced content. And if it fits the criteria of what we're looking for, like basically this is something you take to an interview, then you'll get the cert. Would you want that? Let me know, everyone in chat, please, if that's something that you would want. I mean, that's what I would prefer, but I'll leave it up to everyone. A capstone is a project, yeah. Karina. Xeno sounds pretty good to you too, yeah, okay. Yeah, basically, Karina, you'll deliver a project. I'll give you some requirements, and you can submit it whenever. Demourier, you think a capstone is better, but love sort of personal challenge over an exam. Yeah. I agree with you. Yeah, you can sort of like see the answer, and you know, if you know the material, you can see the answer, right? And it's not really like testing your critical thinking. Jacopo, you like the idea? Cool, yeah. I think it'd be pretty fun. I think that's a good way to do it, yeah. Like, we're just going to give you a capstone, and you have complete freedom and liberty at that point to go and do whatever you want. And then just submit it whenever you're ready. Push, do you really know and apply material? Yeah, and you'll have choices, you know? Like, you can choose any of the modules here. Yeah, like detection engineering, scripting, Doug's content, so you can make like a threat hunting capstone. Karina, sounds good. Pushes your boundaries, gets one excited about their own project. Yeah, and you get creative. Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. I'm not seeing anyone say no, so I guess that's a good sign so far. No one is saying no. Cool. Maybe I'll do that then. Wild Peace sounds good to you too. Nice. Ms. Valentine, welcome. So yeah, I think that's a good way to do it. The SOC 100-5 capstone certification will be, you can choose any of the modules over here, or any of the SOC 100-1 and 2 content. Go and get off script, go and build something, and then you'll submit that, and I'll review it. Doug is going to review it too. Gonna call out Doug over there right now. Doug and I are going to review review your capstone. Voluntold, Doug. Voluntold. We will review your submission. I'll ask the other guys too. I'm pretty sure the other instructors would be happy to take a look at it as well too. So yeah, like if you, in order to pass this course, maybe you'll have to go and write some detection rules. Maybe you'll have to write an awesome script that can go and threat hunt. Maybe you'll do some cloud security automation. And then you'll just submit it. So there's no multiple choice. There's no questions. You can't test take or guess your way through this. You have to actually be able to do the work. You submit your project, your capstone. We'll give you some criteria. And then we'll just give you a review. We'll let you know if it meets it at that point, and then we'll award you with the certification. And that should be the SOC 100 certification. Yeah, it's experience. Yeah, like you then should go to a recruiter or hiring manager and then present your project. That's the goal. So it's not so much just like, hey, like I did a course. It's something for you to walk away with and go to recruiters. And you know what? I'll expand on it. I will start to reach out to recruiters and put on LinkedIn and blast and stuff and be like, you know what? I want to get like a demo night. I think that'd be kind of fun too. Maybe get a bunch of recruiters in the room, and maybe they can like get your presentation. Jacopo, will we have to present our project to you and Doug? I mean, I don't know. I need to think about more on the criteria, but it eventually needs to be a presentation. Yeah, because you need to be able to present it to an employer. I think that'd be really fun. Drea, your critical thinking will be challenged. Nice. That's the point. That's what we want. That is it. Yeah, Doug and I can talk more. Like, how can we do this? Can we set it up to like a call, like you would present and stuff? I don't know. I think it's a good way to do it. Okay. So does this make sense? Does everyone really understand like why the open source world is so important? You're essentially able to go and get free experience and then get a job. It won't cost you anything but your time and your willingness. Any questions on all that? Does anyone appreciate open source a lot more now when you kind of see it under this lens? See, I have so much work to do. Yeah, we just gave you a ton of homework. Yeah. Doug, yours is going to be a threat attack and it's happening. You have to stop and get the key findings. I think that's pretty good. I like it. Hot garbage, nice. Double level effect sign. Cool. On top of catching up, yeah, that's right. Okay. Let's go and spend a little bit of time now. Let's walk through. So there's a lab here. We're going to walk through Git. Git is a version control software. That's all it is. We've talked about it before in Linux. And it allows you to stage and commit. Two important concepts. So what this means is, imagine you're writing a book. Okay? You want to become an author. And you're writing a book. And you get to page 2, and you're done and you're ready for the night. Okay? Like you're going to pack it in, get back to writing it the following day or next week. You close the book. You put it in a safe place to store. And then you come back the following day and you write in the book and you continue where you left off. That all sounds all well and good, right? Now, what if you spilled your coffee all over the book when you're doing that? First of all, that would suck. Second of all, you'd have to restart and rewrite everything, right? So this is why when we're writing books and we're writing content and creating written word things, we have these things called drafts, where you don't write in the book as the final copy. First, you write it somewhere else that you can save. We use computers to do that. Software. What Git does is something very similar. It allows you to make a bunch of changes to code. Git is a code-based way of writing software and things, or honestly, even text. You can use Git for text. It allows you to save your working copy, your draft, and then when you're ready, you can commit it to the final copy. That's all what it does. And it's a lot of complicated commands. I'm not gonna lie. I mess up Git all the time. I don't use it all the time, but whenever I'm working on a project, I'm like, oh yeah, okay, this starts to sound familiar again. But the English is pretty straightforward. You would use git checkout main. So that's like the main branch, the main draft. And then you would pull that draft down to your current working computer. And if you wanted to make a temporary change or try something different or new, or like maybe make an edit to a draft that you don't want to affect the main copy, you would branch. So that's another language from Git. You would branch from there. You would create a branch of your feature or your edit or your draft. And then when you're ready, you would add whatever changes you made, and then you would commit your changes with a message. So some type of change log, like a history, like why I did this. And then you would push the changes. Okay? So there's yeah, it's I don't know. It's just a language that they're using, right? So you would check out, you would pull, you would branch, you would add, you would commit, you would push. It's kind of like having a gym workout. It's like you're going to the gym, you're doing a push-pull workout, and that's what you're doing with Git. It's a cycle. It's a step-by-step process where you have stages, and that's where we talk about the concept of staged. So you're staging what you want to do, and then you commit it to the final copy. That's all what Git is really doing behind the scenes. The tool is called Git, so you're going to see that in all of the commands. And you're not going to remember everything that I just said, so when we do the lab, it'll be like, okay, yeah, that kind of makes more sense now. And you can use Git as a tool to work with other authors' books. That's the beauty of it. I could go to GitHub and find someone's project that they're working on, and I could clone their book word for word. I could clone their project word for word to my computer, to my GitHub account. Then I can go and make my changes, and then I could submit what's called a pull request. And you consider, like, think of a pull request is you're telling the author, I would like you to pull your book, your final copy, to what I am suggesting. That's kind of what you're doing. You're proposing the change. So after you have committed it, you then need to do a final pull, and that's what's called a pull request. This is a lot of lingo, a lot of syntax, a lot of terms and definitions that you are not going to remember right after I just said all of that, and that's fine, because that's just like me speaking a whole new language to you. And this is why we have a lab. So you have a lab we're going to do together, and we're going to walk through what this looks like. It's not as complicated. It's not as crazy as it sounds. And then you will have a challenge in this module to do one of your own. Okay? Does that kind of make sense, though, for now, on what Git actually is? Is anyone completely unclear about the concept of what it is? That's more important. Not like, what does that command do? Like, oh, why is it called git push? Like, what is git push origin? That's not what I'm asking for right now. But are you generally clear on the concept? Tom's clear. Good. Good. Doug wasn't paying attention. Doug, you have to watch the whole stream again. right from the beginning. The whole thing. Whole thing. I think it's clear, yeah? Recap for Doug. What, Karina? No recap this time? Karina's always asking for a recap. That means Karina's clear. or you? Okay, Git is a version control software that you can use to incrementally edit your proposed changes to a project that is based on code. That's it. It allows you to use software to save the changes as you go, and then when you're ready, you just make a final commit, pushing that code to the main project, and it keeps track of all of that for you. That's it. Make sense? I feel like my room just got colder. Compu Chris. Nice. Nice and clear. Karina, good, yeah. All right. So, all of you, when you get to this lab, you will have to go and configure Git. Yeah, I get you, Doug. I get what you're doing over there. I get that you get it and want me to get that you get it. Yep. That's a 4-level layer inception of Git going on over there. Okay. So, you need to install Git on your system. I think Mac actually has it by default now. Yeah, no, it doesn't. Okay. So if you're on a Mac, you'll need to install it using the Xcode command line tools. I think you just go to the App Store and then you just type in Xcode and you download it from there, and then it'll install that for you. And then you can run Git version on the command line to make sure that it works. If you're on Linux, it's really simple. You probably already have it actually installed, or you can just do a sudo apt install, as we've learned. Windows is the complicated one. Okay, Windows is not really friendly because Git was originally for Linux before it got really popular. So you'd have to do a little bit of setup, which is really straightforward. You can just go to this website over here and you would download it, 32 or 64-bit, and then you're good to go. Or you could use Chocolatey, as we've learned in SOC 100-1. Chocolatey, you can just go and you can install it. It's probably even easier. Now, what I'm going to do, actually, is I'm going to use a virtual machine for this. And I'm going to do it on Linux. I just find it easier. Windows gets really, I don't know. I've run into too many snags with Git on Windows and compatibility and all that stuff. So I'm going to get my thing shared here in a moment. 1 second. Just going to adjust that over there. CI, should you download Linux and follow these steps? Use the steps that you would like. So in the lab itself, let's go back to the lab real quick. So the first lab is go and configure Git. You need to follow documentation and install it on your operating system, or just use a virtual machine. I would recommend to just use a virtual machine so you don't mess up your computer until you're more familiar with it. So I highly, highly recommend you just install this for Ubuntu desktop. And that one's really, really easy. You literally would just go and install, like sudo apt install, get all. And it may actually already just be there depending on what you're downloading and installing. The lab itself is going to be using the same commands, whether it's Windows or Linux, it doesn't matter. But this will look, I did this on my Mac for screenshots, so it'll look like Linux as we're doing it. But CI, ultimately, we're in SOC 100-5 category now. I want you to go off script, and I want you to do it at your preference and the one that you want to go with. The lab steps, for ease, are going to be like Linux territory, but it's the same commands whether you're doing this with Windows or Linux. You just need to adjust some of the like the slashes and stuff if needed. Okay. So what are we going to do in this lab? Level effect. So I've created a community career resources GitHub. I did this like 2 months ago. I think it was beginning of the year or so. Like end of Jan or like early Feb, whenever it was. And this is just going to be a home that we're going to add to things over time, and you can go and contribute here as well too. So you can go and you can add to this project, and if you do, you can add a bullet point on your resume title that you are a contributor to an open source project. So I've made this for you. It's a safe space for you to test. And what I've done is I've created a folder inside of here called the guest book. And the guest book has a README that tells you to commit some requirements over here. How you can sign the guest book. So this lab is really for you to sign the guest book for the SOC 100 course series. And if you go to guests.md, this is a markdown file. You can see like I've signed it twice just for fun. So I signed it myself a couple days ago, and I left a message saying not all those who wander are lost. If you get that reference, good for you. I also signed it again for fun of Anthony SOC 100 test with today's date, and then just a message. So I want you to do the same. Your challenge in this lab is to go and contribute and sign the guest book. And through this, you're going to go through the stages of working with Git itself, and then you can actually even put that on your resume that at this point in time you are familiar with this stuff. But then you can go back to the career resources project itself, and that's going to be the challenge in the module, is go and contribute something to here. And it can be anything. If I have a typo, go and propose a change and tell me I've made a mistake here, and then submit it, and then I'll update it. Or maybe there's something that needs to be added here. Maybe you have a recommendation or a feature. So we're going to get you to work with open source software. And in this case, it's not necessarily software per se, but it is an open source project. Cool? Makes sense? So let's go and do it. So first things first, what I want to do, I'm going to need a GitHub account. So I've gone ahead and I've done that. I have one. And just make sure you do have Git set up locally before you begin the lab. But we're going to create a pull request. That's the point. So what I need to do is I need to go to the Level Effect Career Resources GitHub. Okay, let's go here first. I'm just going to get my Linux set up on the side in the meantime while we're doing that. Let it load. Okay, cool. Now I'll go back. Okay. So first I have to go to my target project. Then I want to go and I want to fork the project over to me. Okay. Now, depending on your account, like I have multiple, old Zero to Mastery one that I was messing around with before. You will choose your own. And note, I've already created my own fork over here. So I have a forked version of this. So like if I go to my profile and I go to my repositories over here. So this is my GitHub profile. A bunch of old random stuff that I've been tinkering with over the years. Since 2017. Jeez, has it been that long? Yeah, so 2017, been tinkering with random stuff on my GitHub. So if I go to my repositories now, after I've forked and that's what it's called. It's called a repository, and you might have it being referred to as like a repo. So now that I've forked it over to my GitHub, I have a career resources version of Level Effects career resources for me. Okay? I've forked the career resources project to my GitHub account. That means I now have the ability to go and make whatever changes I want with the same copy that Level Effect has, but it won't impact Level Effect's project. Okay? Now, I've made some changes over here before, so I'm actually going to sync this real quick. So on your screen, you're going to see something like this after you do it. It says this branch is up to date with Level Effect Career Resources main. Perfect. Okay. You should have something like this once you've brought it over. And you can see like this is your GitHub. You'll see your account in the top right, and it'll be a repository on your GitHub. Need to be clear about that. It'll look exactly the same, identical. So I now have the same book. If we're thinking about like the analogy of working with another author's book, I've now copied their book over to my GitHub account. And if I go inside of like the guest book, I can see the current latest version. I can see the entries that I saw in Level Effects GitHub as well too. So the next step. What I need to do now is I need to clone my fork to my working operating system, because you can make some changes through GitHub, and there is a desktop version, like you can do this all through the GUI as well too, but it's not nearly as fast and it's not nearly as predictable, and it doesn't allow you to work within your own environment. And if that doesn't make sense, think about it this way. If you were to do like your school or job work, you have a preference. Like you have your tools, your desk, your notebook, your pens and pencils, your computer. Okay, like you have your setup. That's what we're doing. We're bringing an author's book as someone else's material and into our environment that we're comfortable and we can work on and we're able to be effective with our time. As opposed to if someone said, you can work on my book, just come over and like sit at my desk and use my tools and finish and make some changes and I'll see if it's okay. That's the difference. Now, in order to do this, you can do this a couple different ways. You could use SSH, which we've been familiar with already, or you can clone it locally using HTTPS. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go and share this now. So you should... Let me know if you see that. Unless is that why is it just showing like a black screen? Let me refresh that. Didn't I have this issue before? I feel like I did, didn't I? I'm gonna try to just share like the floating window. I think isn't that what I had to do last time? Give me a second over here. Ah, there we go. Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Nice. Okay. So you should be able to see it now. Is it all clear? Can everyone see my Ubuntu desktop? Just want to make sure. Jacopo, I'm using VMware Workstation, the free one now. You can get the pro version for free. Let me know if that is all good. Yeah, cool. Good seeing. Nice. Okay. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to go back to the command line, and I'm going to go to desktop, and I'm just going to make a new... Actually, I have a repos directory. Okay, so I have my old testing inside here. And what I need to do is I need to get over to... I'm going to do a little bit of like switching things back and forth here for a moment. I need to go back to this repository, and I need to go to my code, and I have to go SSH, and I have to get my HTTPS URL, and this is what I need to clone it to my Ubuntu desktop. So I will do a get clone of this location, which brings the entire project down to my command line. So I'm going to copy this and go back over here. And all I'm going to do is do a git clone and then copy paste that in. Okay. And you're going to notice it said enumerating objects 51. So it actually pulled the whole project down to my workstation. If I go to CD career resources now, I have the whole thing. Like here's guestbook. I can cat it. I can see all of the files, and this is what it's like working with open source projects on the command line. You'll bring it down to your workstation, and we now have the full project that has been forked to our GitHub account, and we have now cloned our fork to our workstation, so we can make all of our changes here very quickly. So a couple different things we need to do. I will need to go and do things like get checkout main, just to make sure that I'm on the main branch. No, you should be, but we're just going to go through the steps anyways to make sure that you're aware of what we're doing. So we are checking out the main branch. So the latest copy of the project. Now, if we were out of sync with our GitHub project, we would need to do something like git pull origin main. And like I said, you're not going to really remember these. So a lot of it is like reference, like, okay, like how do I do this? So conceptually, what we're trying to do here, we're trying to sync our local project with our forked GitHub project. And you should get some success messages. And if it was out of date, you would get an update. And this is typically, so when like devs are working on things, the first thing you would do, well, not always, but for the most part, the first thing you want to do is get the latest copy. Pretty much all the time. You'll get the latest copy and then work with the latest draft of things. You'll only do that when you're starting something new. Otherwise, you'll continue working on your edit. Okay? Now, what I need to do is I need to make a new branch off of the main, because I don't want to mess around with the main branch just yet. So we're going to do a command like get checkout tac b that allows us to open up a new branch. And I'm just going to call it something like lab guestbook sign. Okay. Now you can see that we've now switched to this branch. And if I were to run a command called like get branch, you can see we have a new branch over here created that we just made, and we're no longer on the main one. We could switch back to it if we wanted to, but we want to stay on this branch where we're going to make our edits, and then we're going to propose our changes back to the main after when we're done. Okay? At this point in time, all I want to do is I want to go and sign the guestbook. So see, I was saying, is forked what you're changing or editing the project to become? Forked is not changing. it's essentially cloning the GitHub project to your online GitHub portfolio. And you have so we use the term forking because it's not only a clone, but you've completely cloned it over to the point that you're not going to impact or change or edit the original existing project. So you've created a fork in the road. And that's why it's called forking. Here's the main project. We're going to clone it to ours, which forks it over to a new direction. And the main project continues, but we're doing our own thing. Does that make sense? Like, that's why we've called it, we have forked it. It's a fork in the road. Cool. Okay, good. So now, let's go and sign the guest book. So I'm going to vim into guests.md. So this is a markdown file. And all I'm going to do is, I'm just going to go inside here and I'm going to add a new entry. So name, Anthony on stream, date, and just follow the same convention. So you'll see that there are conventions that the developer or the author has created for you to follow. So just go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go March 1st and put message. I'm on stream with the SOC 100 crew right now. They rock. That's it. Okay. Now I'm going to add in a couple different dashes because we've seen, let's go back to this guest book, guests.md. If you look at the code, like this is what it looks like as we're seeing inside of the Vim editor right now. If we go to preview, you can actually see it's this markdown file renders those 3 lines as a separator. So you want to separate your guest book entries. So we're going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to make my changes there. Let's go back to VMware. So after I've made my changes, and I'm going to go inside of here and go to write quit. Not write G, write quit. Okay, so we're gonna save our changes. I don't know why I hit G over there. I think I was thinking guests. And now what we're going to do over here is we are going to, if we do like a git status, you can see it's red. We've modified the guests.md file. So it's tracking the changes for us. Now I can do something like git add. So I want to add guests.md. I want to add this file to what I want to commit to the main branch afterwards. So I'm going to add it. And now if I do a git status, you can see this has now been changed to green. Git is now tracking that we've picked up our edits and we're ready to hand it to be added to the main or the end of this branch. So what do we need to do? We now need to go and commit. And if I were to go make some changes now, it would go back to red. You have to go back and change it and all that stuff. So if I wanted to make like a new file over here, like my extra guest book, then it would pop up and I'd have to add that as well. So I'll go inside here, I'll do git commit, tac-m, and that's message. So I'm going to commit with a message, say signed guest book live on stream now with students. Okay. Commit. So you can see the message that we signed and one file changed. And I'm going to add a log for this entry too. Or rather, sorry, just going to get the whole log of what's actually happening. So you can see everything that I've done right now in the past. Like here's all my old entries. And you can see what I'm about to commit to it now. Okay. Here is my initial commit that I made the other day. And this is what's awesome about working with Git is this version control. I can see the initial commit that I made. And this is me the other day. I updated the README. I did some different edits on it. I then signed it the first time and I merged. And then I signed it again. And now we're at the head. So this is the head of the branch. And here's our new proposed changes where we want it to go. Okay, so here's the origin. This is where the fork happened. And now this is the new head where we're going to propose. So the fork happened, and I want to start bringing this back, and that's why it's called the head. Okay? So let's go and do that. Now, the next step over here, we're going to run a command of git push origin. So I want to push now my branch. Okay. Now, when I do this, I'm going to actually hide the screen for a moment because I have to enter in some credentials. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And you'll do this too on your side. And what you're going to need to do is set up some form of authentication for yourself. So if I were to go over to my my GitHub, okay, we'll go inside here. You're going to want to go to your settings, and you're going to go to your developer settings, and you're going to go and create a token for yourself. Okay, you're going to generate a new token, classic. So we're going to generate a token for ourselves. You're going to submit your authentication code, however you have it set up. And then you're going to be given a password with that. Okay? Give this token the full permissions. So just go through it and you check everything off as you go. It's fine. Don't share that password with anyone because then they can essentially hijack your GitHub profile. So don't do that. Chica... Good afternoon. What do you think of Cubes OS? Is it really safe? I mean, I actually haven't used it. I've only read a little bit about it. I don't have enough to speak on it, on how safe it is. And safe is kind of objective. I don't know what you're trying to be safe from. Safe is a very relative, objective type of thing to discern. So I don't know what you're trying to be safe from. And I don't have enough knowledge on Cubes OS myself. But maybe ask a more defined question and drop it inside of Discord, and we can help you out as well too for whatever you're working on over there. Okay. So I am going to go and, like I said, I'm going to run this command, git push origin lab guestbook sign. Okay. But I'm going to hide this 1 second while I go and I do this step. So now I'm going to go and show you the screen. Okay, so now you can see above this will be your credentials that you've entered. And now what I've done is I have pushed this branch. I pushed it back over to the origin. And now I'm going to make a pull request. But let's take a look and see what actually happened over here. We've made a few amount of changes, so 513 bytes, not a lot has happened. And I have said I need to put it over to my career resources pull, new branch of lab guestbook sign. And here's the outcome of it. If you get a success message over here, everything's good, and you should. It should be a really simple change. And that's about it. So we've now finished working with our forked and cloned project in our operating system at this time. So now what do we need to do? We need to actually go back to our repository. So I'm going to go back to my GitHub and go to career resources. And you can see the branch that I pushed is now available on my GitHub that I need to compare and make sure that I'm okay with it. And then what I want to do is I want to make a pull request to level effect and pull the main branch to my branch, the lab guestbook sign, which ultimately becomes the new main branch afterwards, if a level effect accepts the changes. And the changes proposed at this time is to sign the guestbook. So it's really simple. I'm going to click compare and pull request. Go ahead and do that. And you're going to see so the commit that I made on the command line is here, sign guestbook live on stream. You can see that it did some changes. It says we're able to merge right away. Now I have special privileges with my account, but you all, when you do this, will have to go through some additional. It's going to ask for some confirmation. We'll get notified, and then we can confirm it. Okay. So add a description. We're going to go ahead and just say updated the guest book live on stream with students to demonstrate working with Git. Makes sense, right? Now I'm going to go over here and I'm going to say create pull request. Okay, you can see that it's doing a check for us. It says there are no conflicts. And maybe there could be some conflicts. If I deleted some things off of someone else's proposed changes or something is conflicting, or there's some constraints, and those are much more advanced things that you'll eventually get exposure to. But if you see the green over here, then you're good. You can see my comment that I made as well. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to propose, this is me now, level effect. I am going to merge this pull request. And I'm going to look at the commit message, make sure this is all good, and I'm going to confirm the merge. Okay. Perfect. Now at this point you can go ahead if you want, and you can actually delete that branch as well too. If you have this message, if this is your project that you're working with or someone else's, or if you have permissions, and we can go and get rid of that additional branch. Now if I go back to, so if I go to my GitHub, and I go to my repositories, and I go to career resources, you can now see that my branch is actually behind main. So I'm not in sync anymore. And that's why you saw this when I first hopped on the screen. Now that I've made some changes and I proposed it and level effect accepted it, my copy is actually behind because mine is still on my old branch. So what I want to do is I want to go sync this and bring it back up. Now I have the latest version that level effect has as well too. Now if I go back to level effect's main, so now we're at level effect career resources, and if I go to guest book and I go to guests.md, well, here you go. I now have my changes that level effect accepted and pushed to the live main working copy of the career resources GitHub. It's a little complex, but I think you can see just how easy it is to work with once you get familiar with the commands. You can go and do this now to any open source project. I could go to someone's and go to their career resources. I would fork it over. I would then clone it. I would make my changes. I would commit a branch. I would check out a branch, make my changes, commit, push it up here to my GitHub, and then create a pull request over here, and then submit it and wait for whatever the developer has to say. Pretty cool. That's working with Git. That's about as complex as it's going to. That's about as complex as it's going to get for you for a while. Would there be any cases when you would unfork it? Yeah. If the main branch and everything changed drastically, or the project changed entirely, then maybe you just want to start from a new fork. Maybe you're just gonna want to like scrap all your changes and just kind of, okay, well, let's just make a whole new fork and start from the latest one, and then leave the old fork aside. Maybe we can come back to it later. But that's it. So what you're going to do is you're going to do the same thing. And this module looks kind of short, but this is actually going to be a little complex. This is going to take you some time to actually get through this. And then of course the challenge is I want you to go to the here, yes. I want you to go through the career resources module. And what I want you to be able to do... Oh, 1 second over here. Yes, this is the challenge. Okay, so what I want you to go over here is go through the challenge of the module. go to the career resources project that we have on LevelFX GitHub and go and improve it. That's your challenge. Go and improve this. This is your first start with working with a community. It's a very safe space. Go and make your changes and commit them. And follow all the steps that you had inside the lab. If you have any questions, reach out for help inside of SOC 100 student channel. This is a really important challenge. I do want you to do this. You can go and propose some changes to the README. Go and add in a section. So if you go to the career resources GitHub, you can see that there's sections on interview prep, on the job insights, scaling up, additional resources. Go and add something. So eventually I'm probably, and this is why as well too, the resources forum is pretty decent inside of Discord, but I definitely want to grow this and have a centralized location. And I'll probably go and like add little things that I see inside of the Discord myself as well to this location. Just a centralized resource, and I want people to start getting their feet wet working with an open source project like this. And then of course you can put this on your resume. Okay, so what are we seeing over here? Let me know if that all makes sense. So Zeno saying, were there any case? Yeah, I already answered that one. Karina, so would unfork be like reverting your changes to the previous version? Well, I guess we should probably stop saying unfork. I was kind of just like rolling with it. So you typically don't unfork things. It's not really like a standard term per se. You're either going to delete it or leave it alone. That's really it. You wouldn't unfork it. You would just have a forked repository, and then I would keep that around, or I would just delete it one day. And if I wanted, I could fork it again and make a new repository forked off of the main project. That's really it. Now, if you want, you can just revert. That might be a question you might be thinking in your head. You could revert your fork. You could do that as well. There's nothing wrong with that. You would then just go and essentially, there's some steps actually at the end of the lab that walk you through reverting it. You could do that by just essentially like deleting your branch, or just going back to main and then checking out a new branch. So a couple different ways for you to do that. Git has a lot of different ways to do the same thing. And they do this because of like development culture and practices. That's it. That's it. Yeah. Yeah, it's good to know how to revert and undo. That's going to happen at some point. Cool. That's it. That's Career Prep 3. If you can do this and you can start working with open source projects and put that on your resume, you are immediately ahead of a good percentage of the competition out there. I can tell you this. I can tell you, having worked with hundreds of students, that it is the minority that actually will go through and do this. By you doing this, you are immediately ahead of the competition in a significant way. That's pretty important. 12. Karina saying, okay, can you review the differences between a push, pull, and commit again? Yeah. Okay, so think of it this way. The push comes after the fork. Okay, so that's sort of like the first thing. The push is, or rather, I should say, the other way around. We're gonna start with clone. Clone comes after the fork. Okay, that's sort of like the first thing. First, we want to go and we want to clone our forked repository to our operating system. That's the first step. That gives us a one-to-one copy with our GitHub repository, but locally on our system. Okay. A commit, you can kind of think about being like a checkpoint. So you can keep making changes and you can keep on committing them whenever you're ready. So if you worked for an hour in the project, you would then commit it and then come back and work an hour again and then commit it. You can have multiple commits. A push is when you're ready. When you're ready with all your commits, you're then going to make the push. Finally, what you want to do is you want to pull your pushed changes, or rather I should say you want to pull your pushed commits to the main project. So that's the flow of how this actually works. So git fork, git clone, make your changes, commit, make your changes, commit, push your commits back up, and then ask, and that's what it is. The pull is basically asking the developer to pull their project to your changes. That's why it's called a pull request. Does that make sense? Perfect. Yeah, like I said, it's a little. I'm not even gonna say it's a little. It's actually very confusing at first. It took me. It's still. There's still. I don't still even understand everything about Git. I don't have to use everything for it. There are conflicts that I ran into that have like completely messed me up for like days in the past when I've been working with it. Software developers that are using this thing like in and out, they're going to be much more experienced. But for you, if you're not a dev, as long as you're comfortable with that process, fork, clone, changes, commit, push, pull, that's 99% of everything that you need, truthfully. Pull is like merging in a way. Yeah. The merge actually happens after the pull. You make a pull request and then the owner merges it. That's why you saw on my screen I was able to actually merge the changes. Cool. That's Career Prep 3, everyone. That's working with open source. Now I want you to go, and I want you to complete this lab when you get to it, and I want you to complete the challenge. Go and improve this repository. Wherever that is on my screen. Lost it. There it is. Yeah. Go ahead and improve this area. Read it. There are sections that you can go and you can contribute to right away. So for those of you in the field right now, you know what'd be really cool? Go to On the Job Insights and add a write-up. Add a write-up of like what you do. And just go and create like a text file or a markdown file or however you think that you see fit, and then just propose the changes. That's it. And then you know what you can do after that? You can give that link to a recruiter. You can go to hiring manager and be like, here's my commit. Like, here is my contribution to an open source project. And walk them through what you did and how you did it. That is amazing. They would love to hear that. Cool. That's all I've got. That's it. Now you got to get to work. Next week, we've got some detection engineering to get into. I think Greg's coming in next week for detection engineering. So that's all I've got, everyone. That's open source projects. That's working with Git. Does it feel more legitimate now? Does it feel more... I hope that probably felt like a little bit more like a professional thing. Like, oh, like I'm actually like it's not just like a lab anymore. Like I have to actually go and learn some tools and I'm going to go work with a project. It actually feels a little bit more like work. Yeah, it's getting real, right? Yeah. It's getting real now. That's all I got, everyone. Yeah, Demorier, so it's more complicated. Exactly, that's what I mean. Like, that's all you're really going to be needing to do. Is, like, the several things that we just did. That's it. If you're a dev, sure. It gets much more complex, but that's about it. CI, you can work on everything together. You just can't help with the virtual SOC tickets. But you can work on everything else together. And then your capstone, we'll come back to you. I'll revisit that. Zeno, great discussion. Thanks for all the info. Yeah, good. Thank you for being here. Glad you enjoyed. Demoria, then get efficient, stick them all in a bash script. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Then you can have some fun. Go make a nice script. That's what you can do. Okay. Once again, thank you everyone for being here. Thank you for another weekend, another Saturday. Thank you for spending your time with me. Thank you for the chat, the engagement, and exciting times. We've kicked off SOC 100-5. Now it's time to start getting into intermediate and advanced territories. So go out there, keep on studying, keep on skilling up. Please reach out in Discord, in the public or private channels when you get to this area. And I hope this gives you a bit of an introduction. It should feel a little bit more reasonable now. It should feel a little bit more doable and a little bit more attainable. That it's not that complex. So go get your hands dirty. Go and update the GitHub. Go make some changes to it. Go get some experience and you can put that on your resume afterwards. And then just keep on doing that. Go and get more experience with open source projects. Go work on something together. Make a PowerShell script together. Choose any of the projects to come inside of this course or the ones before it. And go and get experience on your resume. That's what's most important now. Cool. That's it. Thank you again, everyone. Karina, glad you enjoyed. Everyone have yourself a good rest of your Saturday, a good rest of your week. We'll see you back next Saturday for detection engineering. About to get a little bit more real after that. Have a good one, everyone. We'll see you then. Thank you.